I'm happy that you were able to complete our lesson 1 and now come to the lesson 2. I hope you did the practice exercise and you tried getting feedback from different audience. Let's move on to the lesson 2. How do we create a wonderful flow on the topics that we would speak? Unless and until you have an organized flow of speech, people may not really understand what you're trying to deliver. Now, I would take the analogy of a movie because that's something all of us can relate with. When you watch a movie, you would decide if you want to continue with the movie or not within, say, 15 minutes. So that forms the introduction of the movie, isn't it? When you watch your favorite action star performing, you want him to come out with a bang. You want him to come out as a magical element in the movie that could create a wonderful experience for you. And that's exactly how we can create our speeches, introductions as well. Whether you're preparing for a competition or going to present a seminar, do a presentation to your colleague or to your management. When you have a structured flow, it becomes easy for you to drive your message to your audience. So let's split a presentation or a speech into 3 parts: introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Introduction forms the most important part of your speech because that is what is going to decide if your audience will be hooked to your screen or not. If your audience will continue taking up your messages or not. There are different ways in which you can introduce a topic, but most of the times I have noticed most of the people, they would probably start the introduction like this. Hello everybody, I'm sure you're all doing fine, and today I'm going to talk about work-life balance. Today I'm going to give you some tips about how to make your English communication effective. So when you start like this, there's nothing wrong in the way you start, but still the magical element of surprise is missing here. Can we create an introduction where we don't describe the titles, where we don't define what we are going to talk about, rather show them that this is what I'm going to share. The first way in which you can do is to have quotes. This is the simplest of all. If you are a school child, if you are a school-going student, then maybe you can start with quotes. Let's say that I'm going to talk about my profession, I'm going to talk about myself. Maybe this is one way in which I could start. It is not how much you do, it is how much love you put in the doing. All of us work very hard, but do we really give our 100% to what we do? This is how I might start with my topic. When you give the quotations, it becomes easy for people to understand, okay, this is what I can expect from this particular speech. So when I told you, it is not how much you do, it is how much love you put in the doing. You already got the message that she is going to talk about something which is close to her. She is going to talk about something which makes her happy, isn't it? And that's what I'm talking about. The second type of introductions that you can try is by sharing stories. There is a famous saying that facts tell, stories sell. People buy your stories, not your information. Any good salesperson would know this. Now, what kind of stories can we say? I'm going to share a story which acts as an introduction for one of my speeches. So this is how I would start. Once upon a time, there was a king who was ruling over a country, and there was also a criminal who had committed a crime. he was sent to the king for the punishment. When he was standing in front of the king asked him, I have two choices for you. One is to get hung by a noose, and the second is to choose a big, dark, scary door. Nobody knows what's behind it. Without even thinking for a second, the criminal said, I would get hung by the noose. Soldiers came near him. They started dropping the noose around his neck. He stopped them and asked the king, Majesty, I'm going to die in few minutes. Could you tell me what's behind the door? I'm just curious. The king laughed and said, freedom. It looks like we are ready to die rather than face what is not known to us. This gives us a strong message about our fears, the fear of uncertainty that we have. My topic is about dealing with fears. So here in this type of introduction, you already got my message that I'm going to give you techniques, I'm going to share tips that will help you to eliminate the fears in your life, or maybe to conquer the fears that you have in your life. What happens with this kind of storytelling? It is more relatable for people. It is more personal for people. When you do this, your message will be sent clearly, and it's in a simplified way. Stories are the most easiest ways in which you can convey even complex of the messages. That's why probably people used Panchatantra tales, Vikramaditya tales, and so many other tales to teach moral science. The third type of introductions are sharing your personal experience. So you have chosen a topic called work-life balance, and you start telling that I was working 14 hours a day. My wife was not ready to live with me because I had no time for my wife, for my family, and for my parents. All I was left with was an empty house with no laughter or with no people to live with me. Say, if you start sharing about your personal experience and then you would tell people how you overcame the problem of getting burnt out, the problem of having to work a long hours, then people understand, okay, this is how you were and this is how you are now. They can understand, they can learn from your experience. So the third type of introductions are sharing your personal experience or a hearsay experience that you are very sure of. Experiences will make people get an idea, an understanding of how they can deal with those problems in their life. I think that's why most of us read personality development books, don't we? We try to understand other people's mistakes and also take a learning out of it. The fourth type of introductions are using some facts. If I tell you simply that I'm going to talk about public speaking, you may not be interested to listen to me. But rather, if I tell you, do you know the fear of public speaking is #1 fear among people? Even fear of death comes second. I think people are ready to die rather than face other people on stage. Now, this statement would have definitely created a spark in you to listen to me, because you would definitely want to know how to conquer that #1 fear, isn't it? So use facts which will create attention among the audience, which will help your audience to get hooked to your topic and stay with you for a long time during the speech. And finally, situation based introductions. Sometimes you might be put in a place where you will have to take over from the next person, from the previous person. So you start from where they ended, then continue from there. I would like to share my experience here. Once I was asked to speak in a conference to a group of educationalists. So the speaker in front of me, before me, she told, I'm 60 years old now, and the next speaker is just in her 20s. look at the kind of variety of speakers we have here. I'm sure this 60 and 20 can create a difference in your life. And that's how she ended. Now, when I began my speech, I told, thank you so much for your compliment, ma'am, but I'm not 20. I may look like 20, but I'm way past my 20s already. Then I took over from there, connected with my audience. So, like this, when you have an opportunity to connect with your audience based on situations, please use that as an introduction and then move on with the content that you've already planned. I guess now you've got an idea of how well an introduction can be framed. Remember, your introductions are the most significant aspect of your speech, because that is what is going to drive your audience till the end. Let's move on to the second part of your speech, of your presentations. That is the actual content, the body of your presentation. How do you create a body that still keeps them remain in their seats, that still keeps them listen to you, that still makes your audience that yes, you are adding a lot of value to their time? There are a few things that I would like to recommend here. The first one is to create a flow that will be remembered for a long time. When you have so many points to share about a particular topic, choose a way in which you can put them in a flow. When you speak randomly, when you put so much of information without any logical flow, it becomes difficult for your audience to remember it and to connect with you for a long time. Create a structure so that it becomes easy for them to travel with you. Let's take a topic called women empowerment. First, you talk about how women are actually suffering in different parts of the country. Second, you talk about the evolution in which people have started transitioning from being a homemaker or from being dependent to being an independent woman. Third, you talk about how the society is now coming out to support development of women. Fourth, how other NGOs, social activists, other systems are taking care of this problem. And finally, you talk about the solution that you have or the suggestions that you have for families, for the society, to ensure that this curve keeps growing. Now, there is a logical flow in this topic, isn't it? You start with the problem, then you end up with the solution. Create a flow like this. Always you will be able to impress your audience. The second thing that you have to remember about having a great body is to use acronyms. When you have so much to share, especially about techniques, especially about ideas that they have to remember for a long time, please create acronyms. We used to do this. So, when we used to talk about group discussions, how to actually pick up ideas for group discussions, we used to share this approach called SPELT, S-P-E-L-T, SPELT. Whenever students have a topic, if they want more points to discuss on that topic, they can look at the social aspect of the topic, the political aspect of the topic, economical aspect of the topic, legal aspect of the topic, and finally the technological aspect of the topic. So, these are 5 aspects which will give them wonderful points to share with their friends and with their teammates. So, SPELT becomes easy for them to remember. Create acronyms whenever possible. The third thing which I would recommend here is to avoid jargons. When you have too many technical words, too much of words that people wouldn't understand, when you make things complicated, they may not really like your speech. They may not really listen for a long time. I have seen a lot of people doing this in the YouTube channels. They skip, they forward, they jump 30 seconds. Do you want that to happen to you? So, please avoid jargons, please avoid terminologies that people will not understand. ensure that it is simplified in a way, because all you want to do with your speech is to pass the message. When you pass the message, it has to be simple and clear. The fourth thing about creating a good content is to create associated ideas. You travel from one idea to the other smoothly. When there is a friction between ideas, when you cannot remember what is my next point, then there is something wrong with the idea flow. Start creating associations. When you have 10 points to share, 10 ideas to share, find out the best way in which you can link all of them, so that when you drive them to the end, people will also remember what you really wanted to share in this whole presentation. And the last but not the least is to have your point clear. We make speeches, we make presentations, we present in front of people to achieve something, isn't it? So when you drive to the end, you need to ensure your point is clear. When you talk about women empowerment, the point that you want to make here is to empower people, make independent women, so that they will help the economy and the society to grow. And this is the point that you want to make. It's very simple and clear. Make your message clear at the end of your body. We are done with the introduction. We have seen how to build powerful message, powerful body, and the last part is the climax of the movie. Imagine you had a wonderful movie altogether, but you didn't like the climax. You would tell people the movie was great, but I didn't like the climax, isn't it? And the conclusion is the climax of your speech. What is your conclusion is all about? It is about the call for action that you want your audience to take. You want them to push towards taking certain actions. If you talk about health, you want them to at least try exercising for 10 minutes a day. If you talk about getting up at 5 o'clock, you want your audience to at least have an alarm half an hour before the usual time that they usually get up. You want your audience to have alarm at least half an hour before the time they usually get up. And if you talk about work-life balance, you want people to prioritize, and that's the call for action, isn't it? So create words, choose your sentences which will drive your audience towards the action. If you just end up saying that we had a nice discussion today about health, I'm sure you will be very healthy and conscious about your health henceforth. It doesn't really give any message out to your audience. Unless and until you tell them, I urge each one of you to try exercising for at least 5 minutes a day, so that your lifespan will be extended to another year. This is a clear call for action. Try these call for action sentences which will push them to do something, so that your message is clear and your speech, your presentation is a successful one. We have now seen how to create a wonderful flow in your speech, at the same time create a mark with your audience. The practice exercise for this lesson is to create speeches which has a good flow. Choose a topic. If you are a beginner, please choose topics which are informative in nature. It becomes easy for you to create introductions, the message and conclusion for informative speeches. So choose a topic which is informative in nature, collect as much as information as possible, create an organized flow, and finally present it to your audience. Get feedback, improvise. I told you in the previous lesson that practice is the key, and here, after creating good speeches, after choosing good topics, you now know how to create a speech which is seamless. Try these, and please do forward your videos, links of your videos to info@practills.com. or WhatsApp your link to 88 17030 to get our expert opinion. You would still be able to improve with the kind of suggestions you might get. Keep continuing, keep practicing, because that's the only way to become a better speaker. Thank you.